I'm joined today by a crypto guru. Henri, welcome to the show.
I tell everybody, if whoever tells their crypto guru, you should run away.
I've been waiting for you to come on for quite some time. Your name gives it away, Arslanian.
Every Armenian you meet, their name ends with IAN,
Yes.
right? And it means son of. So Ars actually means line.
Right, we're here to talk about crypto, but there's a lot has been said about crypto over the last few years. A lot of misconceptions, a lot of truths. Your CV is ridiculous. I don't know of anyone living in Dubai that has a better CV when it comes to talking about crypto, plus the personality.
Or basically, for the first time in history, I'm able to send value from one person to another without any intermediary. Fun fact, the Nobel Committee does not give you a Nobel Prize if you're dead or if you're anonymous. That's a single reason Satoshi Nakamoto does not have a Nobel Prize right now. There's only 21 million Bitcoin ever. That's it.
You speak 5 languages.
Despite the fact that I mumble, that I speak fast, I don't finish my words, there's a lot of words that I could not say.
Yeah.
I have a show on CNBC.
Yeah. So Henri, I've noticed something already.
Here we go.
Today's guest is Henri Arslanian. It is more than fair to say that Henri is a crypto guru. He actually started working in crypto since 2013. He's an adjunct professor of crypto in the University of Hong Kong, has written the best-selling book, unsurprisingly called The Book of Crypto. He works on CNBC Arabia as a co-host of Crypto Weekly, and most recently is the co-founder of 9 Blocks Capital Management, one of the largest crypto hedge funds globally. If you want to know more about crypto and the digital assets market, you've absolutely come to the right place.
Henri Arslanian, co-founder and managing partner of 9 Blocks Capital Management, global crypto leader, global Armenian.
The Stablecoin Act, called the Genius Act, which stands for Guiding and Establishing a National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins, move forward. This is a 122-page document. This is how it looks behind the scenes. Here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Luca's Inside Track. I'm joined today by a crypto guru. Henri, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks for being here, Luca. Very excited to be here. I tell everybody, if whoever tells their crypto guru, you should run away. You know, I spend 24/7 of my time in the crypto space. I have no idea what's going to happen a month from now. So.
Fantastic. I love to hear that confidence.
Yeah.
So you're actually the first Armenian I've also had on the show.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
hopefully not the last one.
So you're the first crypto guru.
Yeah.
You're the first Armenian. What else is going on? What else are you the first of?
I hope there's, I used to be, when I was young, I used to be a fencer. You know?
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to be, it was top 3 in Canada in fencing. I was an AP fencer. And here you go. Maybe that's one thing you didn't have.
That's a bit
we haven't had
random.
a
Yeah, I
fencer
didn't
yet
have
on the
that in your
show.
bio. I had everything else. I got the professor bit down. I got the best-selling author book down. All that, but no, not the fencing.
Here we go.
But look, I'm delighted to have you on.
Yeah, great. Thanks for being on. Thanks for creating content for your audience. I love that you're sharing your knowledge and sharing that of your guests with your audience.
Appreciate it. Look, I mentioned to you off camera, we haven't had anyone to talk about crypto in 3 seasons. Season 4, I wanted to really arrest that and address that.
Yep.
So I've been waiting for you to come on for quite some time. So I'm super excited. But first things first, what's going on with the mug or the glass?
Well, you told me to bring a mug. I said I need to bring something that represents me, right? Let's be original. Let's be different. I brought you a glass of Armenian brandy, Armenian cognac. It has a very special glass we drink it from. And here you can see the Ararat brand on it, which is obviously a very spiritual mountain in Armenia, our logo and everything. And I figured, I'm your first Armenian on the show. Let's get you Armenian brandy and Armenian cognac on as well. So here we go. We'll have water today in it, which is a sacrilege. But hey, we have water in the Armenian brandy glass. I highly recommend Armenia as my happy place where I go to. I love it. Obviously, a big fan of Dubai. I live here, but it's 2.5 hour flight from here. I love being in Armenia, the mountains, the great food, and of course, you have to try it.
Of course, no, I love that. It's definitely going to go on the mantelpiece. So your name gives it away. Arslanian. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
And you know what it means? So every Armenian you meet, their name ends with IAN.
Yes.
Right? And it means son of. So Ars actually means line.
Yeah.
And all the Armenians you meet, my family was originally where is now current day Turkey.
Yeah.
The Armenian genocide took place in 1915. So everybody pretty much was killed, except a couple of members of the family. They went to Syria, built their life again, lost everything, went to Lebanon, built their life. War started. They went to Canada, and then that's where I was born in Montreal, Canada, the beautiful French part. And then I moved to Asia. So my kids, I always say it's 5-6 generation. We're all born in different places, different countries every year, and God knows where my grandchildren will be born. Time will tell.
Who knows? The Kardashians, have they helped your country or hurt your country?
Oh, Kardashian, so interestingly, Kim Kardashian, Kardash means trusted partner. So here we go. I think they've been great advocate, right? It's very interesting when you're an Armenian. I tell people I'm 100% Canadian.
Yeah.
I'm 100% Montrealer. I'm 100% Quebecer, and I'm 100% Armenian as well. I think that this beauty of Canada is a multiculturalism.
100%.
And being Armenian, everybody has met an Armenian, knows one, and this and that. We're a small country. Armenia has about 2 million people, but it's very entrepreneurial, great EQ, great place.
So I'm a tourist, right?
Yep.
Sell me why I should go to Armenia, no other place in Europe.
First of all, you go to Armenia from here, from Dubai, 2.5 hours, 5 flights a day. The things I love about Armenia, first of all, of course, the food, great Armenian cuisine. Second is the history. Armenia is the first country to adopt Christianity as a state religion.
By the way, I was going to throw that on you. So the only thing I know about Armenia is it's the oldest Christian country in the world.
It's adopted. The churches are there. It's a whole institution. It's amazing on that side. I mean, you have literally churches from the 4th, 5th century. And then what I personally enjoy is the people, right? You have this hospitality. It's the only place that my house in Armenia, I don't even lock the door. I'm not kidding.
Really?
We think, obviously Dubai is very safe. You can go to Armenia, my house. I don't even have the key.
Oh wow!
Because anybody can go walk in and have stuff there, right? So it really shows you how safe it is. It's great at hospitality. The Armenian people, it's a great place. So anybody wants to go.
Sold, done. I'm there. And what's going on here? You brought a book.
You told me about your kids, and I'm a big believer in education, right? I truly believe that it's unacceptable that we let kids today in schools. And we don't train them on the future of finance. We don't teach them forget even the basics of crypto, the basics of finance. And I wrote this book called Decoding Crypto. I have a daughter who now is 9 years old, used to be 5 years old. And a couple of years ago, she used to go to school. And when her friends would ask her, what does your dad do? My daughter would tell her, my dad is the CEO of Bitcoin. And I was like, oh shit, I got to fix this. And then the idea came up with this book. When my last book came out, it was another best-selling book. And I got hundreds of messages from my followers saying, hey, Henry, can you do one for kids? And that's how the idea for a kids book came out. Interestingly, actually, I was very arrogant. And I'll dedicate it for your kids as well later on. I really thought naively, perhaps, that a book for kids must be very easy. I mean, I wrote them all these books, for adults. I teach the world's first crypto university course in 2015. Yeah. And boy, was I wrong. This book took about 3 years. I partnered with Michael Dodzikas, who's a best-selling kids author. And we came together. And then we had Billy Martin, who's the guitarist of a band called Good Charlotte back in the US. He's a big crypto fanatic as well. So he came together. And the book, the problem with kids' book, or the problem or the good thing, is the books need to be fun, funny, has to rhyme. You need superheroes. So here I have my buddy Hodler. I have my friends Nakamoto. I have a female hero called Solidity. And now we're working on the other couple
You're just
books.
Ticking all those PC boxes. Oh, I love it.
I'm not a big fan of all those things, but you have to do it. It has to be fun for kids. And what we found, even we interviewed 200 parents and teachers. And for example, I'll give you an example. The book was supposed to be called Crypto for Kids. And the number one feedback we got from parents and teachers was kids don't want to be called kids. Yeah. So we had to change the title. And now we're working on the second one called Decoding Bitcoin. We're working on animated series for TV. Again, I found it... adults should know about crypto. That's why it's great you're covering this with your audience. Yeah. But I think kids, if we're talking about the future of finance, the generation that will experience the future of finance should definitely know about it. Like, your kids, 100%. People should know about it. So that was the idea of the book. And I love it. It was #1 kids book on money globally for many months, #1 kids book on finance in the world. So very, very humbled by the reaction, the reception it got.
So Henry, I've noticed something already in the 5 minutes we've been talking.
Here we go.
You talk very fast.
I know. That's been very fast. Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Wow. I look, sometimes I won't say anything for a while. And then when I start talking, I'm rapid. But man, you take it to another level.
Well, when I was a kid, it's ironic now because I have a TV show on CNBC. I have all this following. I have my YouTube channels and everything. When I was a kid, I was very, very shy. If you watch videos of me in kindergarten, primary school, maybe this is a good positive thing for parents today. I was so shy, I wouldn't even look at the audience. I would be, let's say, singing like choral things, and I would just look on the floor. And then, and I was very, very shy as a person. And I opened up, but I speak very badly. I mumble. There's a lot of words I cannot say. For example, my kids make fun of me. I cannot say 3, like 1, 2, 3. The TH, I just cannot say it. I've tried to improve it. And then what I tell everybody is, despite the fact that I mumble, that I speak fast, I don't finish my words. There's a lot of words that I just cannot say. Yeah. I have a show on CNBC.
Yeah, and you speak 5 languages. Do you speak fast in all those 5 languages?
Pretty fluently, obviously. Armenian.
So English, Armenian, French, Spanish, Mandarin.
Yeah. Yeah, so French, obviously, I grew up in Montreal. It was
Yeah.
mandatory. I did all my law school, everything in French. Armenian, I used to speak it at home. English, I learned English when I was 10 or 12 years old. Growing up in Quebec, now it's getting better, but at the time it was almost de facto illegal to teach English to kids. You had to teach
Okay.
French. Spanish, I learned it over the years. I'm a big fan of Latin America, very bullish on the continent as well. I just
Olé.
came back from there. And Chinese was, when I was young, when I was in my 20s, I moved to China. So I became a lawyer. I was very fortunate. I was number one at my university. I was working the best law firm in Canada. And one day I was at home with my dad watching French Canadian TV. There was a documentary called The Rise of a Chinese Dragon. And I remember very well, I turned to my dad. I said, you know what? At the time I was thinking of going to London, doing a master's in finance.
Yeah.
I said, screw it. I'm going to China. I bought a book the next day called Chinese for Dummies. And I was on a plane to Beijing. I learned to count next to this grandma who couldn't sleep. I was an economy at a time, talking with her. And then I got to Beijing for the first 3 months. I wouldn't go to bed until I learned 50 new words a day, written, writing, speaking. And then I did a master's in Chinese law. I became the first Canadian to get a master's in Chinese law from Tsinghua University. And I've been, I'm going back to China next week. I'm very active in the region, and I'm extremely bullish on China. One thing actually in the Middle East, people are aware of China. They acknowledge it. What I find the most shocking, maybe for your US and North American audience and European audience, actually, I'm amazed how much ignorance there is and the lack of understanding of how advanced China is. Finally, we're seeing the Chinese cars here, which are excellent, for example, right?
Great value for money.
I'm extremely bullish on the future of China, and I think for kids and people should learn Mandarin.
Right, we're here to talk about crypto,
Let's
right? Digital assets. And I'm conscious. I need straight off the bat. I don't know that much about crypto.
Neither do I, so don't worry about it. Yeah, so there you go.
But there's a lot has been said about crypto over the last few years. A lot of misconceptions, a lot of truths. A lot of people are a little bit kind of hesitant, unsure. Some that do know make really big boasting claims. But you're someone who's been doing this for more than 10 years, right? So if I'm going to ask you, what is crypto all about? In a simplified nutshell, right? Because we're going to start here, then we're going to get into it. How would you initially describe what crypto is all about?
Let's actually start with Bitcoin, because that's the genesis of it all, right? I think if we even take a step back on that, what Bitcoin and crypto is all about, right? Like you said, I've been in the space now for some time, and really, we've been trying to solve in cryptography and finance one single problem for a long time, which is what we call the double spend problem, which is basically right now, if I give you a $10 bill, you look at the $10 note, if it's real, you know that you have it and it's yours. We've had a problem how you digitalize this, right? If I take a picture of my $10 note and I send to you, it's great, you'll be happy to have it, but I can send it to everybody else in the
Not
world.
going to help me much either.
Exactly. And that's what we call a double spend problem. How we dealt with this issue when we come talk of digital money, it's actually by intermediaries. I send you money via Kareem app, via PayPal, via your bank. There's an intermediary in the middle that comes and does the credit and debits, basically the checks, the plus and minuses on each side. We've been trying to solve this problem for a very long time. The person who solved this was Satoshi Nakamoto on Halloween Day 2008, where on an 8-page document that goes on the internet, he comes up with something called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer cash system, where basically for the first time in history, I'm able to send value from one person to another without any intermediary. So I can send you Bitcoin that goes from me to you, and we can verify that. I'm not able to send it to everybody else, and everybody can see this transaction. And this is a Nobel Prize in economics, by the way. Fun fact, the Nobel Committee does not give you a Nobel Prize if you're dead or if you're anonymous. That's a single reason Satoshi Nakamoto does not have a Nobel Prize right now. So that the really core problem that Bitcoin fixed originally was that. Okay. And in its construct, how Bitcoin is designed solves a lot of problems. So for example, if you look throughout history, how currencies, money arises. Back in the day, historically, we've always had money backed by gold for the longest period of time. And if you go back even a step further, what we define as money has changed over the years, right? If you ask any economist, what is money? They will tell you that money fits 3 definitions. 1, it's a store of value. 2, it's a unit of account. And 3, it's basically a unit of transfer. But how we define this definition of money has changed over the years. Back in the day, it used to be cattle. Actually, the word capitalism comes from the root of the word cattle. There was a big period of history, salt was used as money. The word salary comes from the Latin saltius, salt. With the expression, he's worth his weight in salt. comes from that time.
Isn't it
And-
worth its weight in gold as well later?
When it goes well,
That adapted.
but then everything's changed over the years. Bucks, animals for a long time. I'll give you $1, $2 come from bucks, animals, and this as seashells for a very long
Well,
period. of time.
dowries. If you're getting married in the old days, you used to trade in cattle. That was your
Cattle,
dowry.
it's changed over the years. So what we define has changed really radically over the years. When it comes to banknotes, we've had, in 1863 when the US dollar came up, for a long period of time, even the US dollar was backed by gold, right? And basically, and the reason is gold is a finite number of gold we have in the world. If you actually, even today, with all the gold that we have around the world, there's about 30 grams per person. It's about 6 wedding rings. That's it. That's all we have, right? So it's a very scarce resource. And
How
really,
much gold do you have? Just to interrupt. How much gold do you have?
I'm a big believer in gold as well. Actually, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin, of course.
We'll
but
come back to
Bitcoin,
that.
yeah, especially in the current fiscal environment in some countries. But basically, what happens was then we moved out really the gold standard really in 1971, where Richard Nixon back in the day, even the U.S. dollar, any country could go to the U.S. and say, "Here's my U.S. dollar. Give me my equivalent in gold." Actually, the French did that, and this is actually where in 1933, not many people know this. The United States banned the ownership of gold. Having a gold bar was illegal in the United States from the 1930s to the 1970s. People forget this. And then the reason was the French at a time were like, hey, wait a second. We're calling the bluff on the US. We don't think these guys have the gold they're saying that the currency is back from. And that's how it started and that's how the US took out the dollar from the gold standard. From 1970s to now, we live in a normal period of history where literally our money is in God we trust. It's what we call a fiat currency, which basically means
Fiat?
Fiat, F-I-A-T.
Like the car.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly like the car. And basically, it's basically in God we trust. You trust governments and the value of your money. And that if you look at throughout history now, what happens over and over, you can go back, like the Dutch guilder to the British pound to the French franc, and really go back to Roman times. What happens normally in countries? It's always initially gold backed, or silver backed, or a rare asset. Countries, people get complacent. They want to give, they want to give stuff to their people. People want to feel good, whether you're emperors, or rulers, or prime ministers, presidents. You start devaluing your currency, and actually, the value of your currency started going down, right? So, and that's exactly what many will argue is happening right now, where we have basically the United States that is de facto pretty much bankrupt, outside of the fact that they're able to print money. It's basically deficit year after year. And one of the historically what happens, countries rarely, when they need to default, they can either default or they just print more money. And the big risk here is that whether a country will simply go and devalue their currency. And this has
inflation
happened.
leads massive inflation.
This happened over and over throughout history and so on and so forth. So when it comes to Bitcoin, right? Why is Bitcoin relevant for people? There's only 21 million Bitcoin ever. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less.
Why 21 million? Why not 20?
It was just the way it was designed initially on that front. But remember, every Bitcoin is dividable up to 8 decimals, which we call a Satoshi, the smallest unit of account. So actually, technically, I'm convinced in the next 20, 30 years, we won't be counting in Bitcoin. We'll be counting a number of Satoshis that we have. I'll be on fractions.
Satoshis.
Yeah, Sats. Yeah. So this is like,
after the name, after the...
Satoshi Nakamoto. Yeah, correct. So really, there's a set number of Bitcoin that is there. There cannot be more, there cannot be less. And the other difference is everybody can see transaction, right? So let's say I want to send you Bitcoin. The transaction is public. Everybody can see it. They don't know that it came from me to you, but the transaction is public. Everybody can verify it. And as we move to the internet, think about your YouTube channel and all the channels you have. We are moving to a digital knowledge. Everything we're doing now is obviously digital, but we still don't have a proper digital way of exchanging value and money. And that's how Bitcoin is able to do. So the Bitcoin really is really to be seen as digital gold. So same thing, similar as gold, there's a finite number amount. Similar to gold, you can subdivide it. You can have wedding rings to bars of gold. Same thing with Bitcoin. Yes, the jewelry, you can wear it and you can do things. Bitcoin, you cannot do that. But the big benefit Bitcoin has over gold is if I want to send a bar of gold from Dubai to Geneva, man, it's complicated. There's fees and so on and so forth. I can send $1 billion Bitcoin right now from here to anywhere in the world. It will take literally a matter of seconds and minutes to do so. And then obviously there's a whole broader crypto space. We have Stablecoins, there's a whole Web3 ecosystem, and the crypto world really evolves on this, but the core of it is Bitcoin. My advice to everybody is really, if you want to learn about crypto, start with Bitcoin, and then there's a whole new universe to open.
Which we'll cover. Before we go any further, I typically ask my guests for a safe word if there's a question, because I'm going to keep probing until you basically say no.
Yeah.
So what's your safe word, Henri?
let's stick with the Armenian team. Let's make it Voch, which means no in Armenian.
Voch.
Voch, here you go. Boom. Not only you
sound-
learn about
it
Armenia, you
sound-
learn about the words of vocabulary as well.
I love it. I love it.
Voch.
Okay, so how many cryptos are there at the moment?
Oh, there's millions. So initially, so Bitcoin was created in Halloween Day 2008, right? That first Bitcoin was mined in January 2009. And at a time, and Ethereum, which is the second biggest cryptocurrency now, started around like 2016, 17.
I think most people can name Bitcoin. Most people can name Ethereum.
Yeah.
After that, though, a lot of people struggle. But you're saying there's millions. You're saying there's millions.
Oh yeah. So up to, I would say, about 2 years ago, you had in the tens of thousands.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah, the thousands. And now what happened the last 2 years? There's been really the rise of meme coins and the ease of basically creating.
What's a meme
currency.
coin?
So
Like, give me all the coins.
Yeah, so let's start
lay
with
it
the
out
basics.
there. Lay it out there.
So there's obviously Bitcoin is the mother of all finite number
Clear.
digital gold, right? Then we have what we call them utility tokens.
Okay.
So what is a utility token? It's a token that doesn't give you economic rights. There could be a number of may increase, may decrease depending on which token it is.
Yep.
But normally gives you access to a certain ecosystem. Let's use Ethereum or Solana as an example. With Ethereum, you're able to go in the Ethereum ecosystem. You interact with smart contracts or other things you want to do. But the best analogy, it's imagine if I'm building a roller coaster tomorrow at an amusement park, and I tell you, you want to use my amusement park, you want to come in my amusement park, there's only going to be 100,000 tickets.
Yeah.
You can buy your ticket now, and you can enter the amusement park and come and play. That ticket doesn't give you dividends on the revenues of the amusement park, but at least you can come and use it. If everybody wants to come and play in the amusement park, great, the value of the ticket will go up, but that's what it does. It gives you access to an ecosystem. So Ethereum, Solana, Algorand, and the list goes on and on and on of this. Like there's de facto, there's probably 20, 30 big ones, but in reality, there's tens of thousands of such let's call them utility tokens. There's many subdivisions there, L1, L2, but let's stick with that.
Can anyone create a crypto?
Yep, we could do one in 10 minutes today.
So how does someone know whether or not they are viable?
You all know. So if you think about it, a lot of, I guess the next category, the meme coins or NFTs, the meme coins were literally, I could create a meme coin of the Luca coin, right? Or
Sounds good. I'll buy it.
We issue 100,000 Luca coins, and if your followers like it, they can go buy
I've just got
it.
this image of my face on something.
Here we go. Well, Trump coin is not very different from that. And Donald Trump made billions out of Trump coin, for example. Then it's really, if there's any value, people believe there's a value. It's really if this offer and demand. The problem with meme coins, of course, 98.6% of meme coins issued are complete crap. I mean, all of them.
Well, that's the problem, and that's what's tarnishing the industry.
Exactly. And we hate it. Honestly, like people like me that have been in business for a while, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin. I actually believe that we will need a number of these utility tokens, what we call the layer ones, like whether it's Ethereum, Solana, and many others that are there. But there's so much crap in this space.
So how regulated or unregulated is the space?
So we've been advocating for many, many years to have a clear regulatory framework for the digital asset space. The biggest problem actually in crypto was, until very recently, the lack of regulatory frameworks. And the industry was asking for it because we wanted a clear playing field where everybody can come, we know the rules, and we can build our businesses on top. And then there's been, I would say the last 2-3 years now, there's pretty good regulatory clarity. Dubai, where we are right now, for example, has the world's first crypto specialized regulator.
Vara.
Where it's specialized on crypto, right? That's all they do. And now most regulatory regimes around the world, from Hong Kong and Singapore to now the US, have some kind of regulatory clarity or framework in various degrees. I would say the other thing with crypto, there's a lot of misconception. For example, one of them, people think Bitcoin, they think money laundering, criminals, and so on and so forth. It's true that in the early days of Bitcoin, I would say from 2009 till about 2013, a big chunk of the use case was gambling websites, people using it for buying drugs and stuff like that. One good thing or bad thing with Bitcoin, it's all traceable. Let me give your followers an advice. If they want to do something illegal, they should not be using Bitcoin. It's 100% traceable.
I really hope my followers aren't a bunch of criminals.
Yeah. And this is what I mean.
So.
There's such a misconception. People think about it, but every single transaction is actually fully traceable.
Yeah.
Right? You may not know that it's coming from Luca to Henri, but we will be able to identify the wallet addresses. And then one day when you want to cash out at a crypto exchange, they'll just go subpoena the exchange and get your information and you'll be caught. This is why it's very difficult. Crypto is the only industry where often the hackers have to return the funds. It's a bit like imagine you go rob a bank and then you're like, actually here, I'm not able to launder.
You leave your
that
digital
back.
fingerprints all over it.
It's all there. So that's what's happening on that. Crypto has a PR problem because there's no
it.
CEO.
Yeah.
Like there's no CEO.
But the problem is that if you create these Luca coins, like we mentioned before, if anyone can do it and it's unreally regulated, and only a few little countries or even cities like Dubai are focusing on regulatory systems, it just opens up a whole sense of fear, uncertainty, and trepidation.
And scams.
And if look, you've got people work hard for a living. I mean, it's getting harder and harder, or it's getting easier and easier depending on your viewpoint. But money is still relatively difficult to come by. Once you have it and you want to grow it, you've got different options, right? Crypto, if you've got this a little bit of doubt, right? You may not want to get for 15, 20% yield or return annually. A 5% is okay, a 10% is okay, but it's secure. So it's the PR angle. But building on that, if I was to ask 100 people in Dubai, let's use Dubai as a
macrocosm.
How many people have crypto in their digital wallets?
Here, numbers are extremely high. So Dubai is per capita the highest one of the two highest ownerships in the world of digital assets.
So what's the percentage?
It's something around 30 or 38% of adults hold crypto.
Okay.
So
outside of Dubai,
globally, so let's look at it. There's about, depending of how what metric you use, there's about from 300 to 500 million people using crypto around the world. Now, depends on what the use is, right? So, for example, a big chunk of them hold Bitcoin as digital gold, in the same way people hold traditional gold. A big chunk of them are using stablecoins. So, what is a stablecoin? It's a digital asset that is backed 1-to-1 by, let's say, US dollars. If I give you Bitcoin today, you'll be very happy, but you don't know what the price of that Bitcoin will be a week, a month, a year from now. If I give you stablecoin, it's worth $1 today, it'll be worth $1 next month, next year. So people use it for various day-to-day transactions, remittances, cross-border payments. There's an increased usage of stablecoins. So a big chunk of the population is using it.
40% is a huge number.
UAE is extremely high. And honestly, I find that, all the kudos to the government here and the authorities, because they realize this is the future of finance. And they listen to the industry, created a regulatory regime. I would say now UAE customers have probably the safest regime in the world when they go on their various crypto exchanges and actually where their assets are held, how their assets are supervised, the products they have. This is a great product. What happens in many countries, they turn a blind eye. People will always want access. They're going to go offshore and do it and use offshore platforms.
So how many digital assets are there? Can you break them down?
Yeah, so let's start with, there's Bitcoin.
Yeah.
There's utility tokens that I mentioned, like Ethereum, Solana. The big one are stable coins that are backed 1-to-1 by US dollar, and people are able to use them, right? There's not many stable coins.
NFTs come and gone.
So then you have meme coins as NFTs. Let's put them together, where it's a bit like digital art, if you want, or their meme or their topics that you were seeing there. And I would say those are the big categories that we're seeing.
Okay.
And then there's obviously different kinds of ecosystems, right? So you mentioned Bitcoin. What is the one beauty of innovation there? Today, let's talk about financial services. I go to a bank, the bank decides if they want me as a customer. And God forbid you don't have any money, the bank doesn't want you as a customer. God forbid you're born.
You look respectable though. I
don't know about that. Well, actually, we'll talk about that, the problems we've been having. But let's say if God forbid you're born in a country like Iran, you're born in Syria, you're born in Lebanon,
you got the wrong passport, you got
the
wrong family name, wrong family name.
The one thing in your life that you have no control on is where you're born. And it's incredible that has the biggest obstacle to the financial services you can access. So if you're born in any of these countries, from Iran to Libya to Syria, you're not able to access any financial services. And the beauty of DeFi and the crypto, you're able now with DeFi it opens up a whole world of financial services to anywhere in the world. And you don't need to trust the intermediaries. You only need to trust smart contract code. You need to trust code. And I'm convinced that at 50, 100 years, we're going to look back at how banking operates today.
How racist are banking markets?
And exactly say, this is like slavery. Now we look back at slavery.
But this is racism. This is indoctrinated 100%. Racism.
Correct. I'm convinced our children and grandchildren will look back at this era of banking, say, Dad, it's crazy that you guys used to discriminate on where somebody is born.
Where were you born?
Montreal, Canada. And I find, I've been very fortunate, right? Because and that's my problem with Canada right now. I still go to Canada from time to time. I find that many people in the Western world don't appreciate how lucky they've been with the lottery of life. In Canada right now, you can be literally a nobody, but there's so many grants, scholarships to go university. To reach
the infrastructure is there to help you be successful.
To reach your full potential. My problem I find with many of these countries, and applies to big parts of Europe as well, I find there's a lack of ambition. And I find it unacceptable. You can have a bozo American, a bozo Canadian, or a bozo French who's there chilling out, relaxing. I would love to give a hungry Indian, somebody from Philippines, China, who's hungry, wants to achieve success, the opportunity that guy has.
So I've worked in London. I've been to New York many times.
Yeah.
My hypothesis is that Dubai is the hungriest city in the world.
Yeah.
That I've been to. I don't know about the Far East. I don't know Hong Kong. Obviously, you know Hong Kong
Yeah.
well. But this city is unbelievable. It's relentless. It doesn't stop.
Because everybody is hungry in a positive way. So I spent 15 years of my life in Hong Kong, and I spent a lot of time in Hong Kong, Singapore. At a time, we used to see this energy in Asia, right? And I'm very bullish on Asia on that front.
It's the third time you mentioned it.
Here you go. So I've been saying this for many years, but when it comes to Dubai, what I find amazing is Dubai is a very privileged position. And UAE, let's put the UAE as a whole. I'm very bullish Abu Dhabi, very bullish Ras Al Khaimah. But what I mean is that where you have clear leadership, strong leadership, very visionary, and that the execution power is to execute on those dreams, right? And they're not worried about elections every 4 years. They can take an idea and long-term view. And that attracts also people, right? And success attracts people. In crypto, for example, in our little bubble, everybody in crypto is here. If you're not in Dubai, the question is, people are like, why are you not in the UAE? So, talent attracts talent. That's why I'm extremely bullish in this part of the world for the next couple of years. And I really think people are hungry. Think about content creators, for example, right?
Unbelievable.
The number of content creators are here. Yeah. I remember meeting with Dubai government recently, and their view was that we believe the Hollywood of the future are content creators. It's not going to be this big cinema productions and studio. It's going to be content creators like you and me, who are creating educational content. So let's invite these guys. Let's make this a hub for it. So I'm extremely bullish on that, and I think the next decade, especially, I'm extremely bullish on this part of the world and see what's happening here.
Your safe word should have been bullish. You would have been using it a lot.
Yeah, well, I'm very optimistic.
I'm very
optimistic as a person.
I love that word. I love that word. It's a great word.
I always
especially in the financial markets. I've never heard anyone say bullish outside the context of being in finance.
I'm bullish on life. I'm very bullish on life. I always say we have to. I like to think like an immigrant. As an Armenian, we are always these paranoid optimists, right? You have to be optimist on life. You have to be always so paranoid on what can happen. I teach at university for many, many years. Like I mentioned, I teach the world's first crypto university class. Every class that I teach for the last 15 years, I put my last class session, I bring a chair in the middle of the class. I put a chair and I sit on the edge of the seat. And I tell my students, the day you're sitting comfortably on your chair, you're gone.
Yeah.
You always have to be paranoid. Myself, what I do every month, it's on my calendar. Every month, the first day of the month, I go by myself. I love cigars. I take a cigar. I go by myself somewhere. I don't bring my phone, and I just reflect. How am I being disrupted? Every month.
Nice.
And I'm okay. How am I? Is this something I should do on my content side, on my hedge fund side?
It's a great insight.
And really, because I think unless the day you're becoming comfortable, the day you're gone.
Hi everyone. I really hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Throughout my career, I've met a lot of people that have anxiety when it comes to public speaking. If you're someone that has that anxiety or nervousness and has always wanted to be more confident in public speaking, but you're also not sure where to go or how to start, the good news is I might be able to help. I have 20 years experience working in corporate communication. I'm a former regional CEO and I've helped to win over 80 different clients through new business pitches. With so many online trainings based on theory, I wanted to share what's helped me in the business world. I've launched my own training program called Master Pitch. The 7-module course covers everything you need to know, whether it's learning how to really understand the audience, how to deliver real impact, or how to effectively storytell. I've got it covered. With practical tips and real examples, you can immediately start turning that anxiety into confidence. Also, in a world of AI, there's never been a more important time to invest in your personal brand and in developing your public speaking. For more information, go to lucaallam.com or drop me an email at info@lucaallam.com. Right, let's get back to the episode. Do you play golf? Are you a golfer?
Yeah, I enjoy golf. Dubai is great for golfing as well, by the way. I enjoy
the fact that we're in a desert and they have unbelievable golf courses.
Probably the best golf course in the world. And actually the problem we have in Dubai is, I love golf. The golf, when you get used to the golf courses here, it's difficult to play anywhere else. Same thing for many things like hospitality, service. When you get used to it
hotels
here in Dubai,
here, man. Hotels, you can't go anywhere else.
I'm obsessed about hospitality and service. I'm the customer at every hotel I go to. Yeah. I will meet with the manager afterward, get my feedback. The staff that did great service, I'll write their name.
Love it.
I do it for restaurants. I do it for hotels. Even I'm a co-founder of the world's biggest crypto compliance services firm called ACX.
Of course you are.
And when we built this, years ago, every employee goes not only to crypto training, they go to 4 to 6 weeks of crypto training, but they also go to what we call the Ritz-Carlton training. So we train. Imagine, with your bank, when you're dealing with them, they ask you for your passport information. But what if this guy treated you as if you're at the Ritz-Carlton? Say, Mr. Luca, they see it's your birthday, they send you a gift, they see you have kids, So I'm amazed at how many verticals of what we deal with every day, finance, at least in our bubble, service doesn't exist. It's just you get stupid email.
Especially like in a time where it's more important to be human than ever else.
Yeah.
And yet we're losing that sense of it.
Human is the humanity actually is very important on that side.
And being, like you said, hospitality, customer service, it's a dying art form. Like I had Haitham on the show at season 3, and he was telling me the challenges they have with young people trying to get into this industry because no one wants to work weekends. The pay isn't as great, but they don't think of the upside of meeting people, interacting, staying in some beautiful locations. Are you facing the same, before we get into balls, are you facing the same thing with crypto, but the other way around, where too many people want to get into this because they see it as a quick way of making money, so you attract the wrong type of talent?
Yeah. So I would say the biggest challenge I see in the crypto, and there's many challenges, of course, right? But one of them is often people come in for the wrong reasons. I think if you're just investing in crypto because you want that upside and you see this, you shouldn't touch. I think you need to spend the time to understand what the asset is. And then when it makes sense, you have to go in.
But to work in the industry itself, you must be attracting certain people. Just they see it as time to cash in.
So we see that with a lot of people, traditional finance, where they try to come in crypto only when it's a bull market. Again, people come in. What it's been interesting now, I've been in crypto now since 2013, right? I've been professionally in it full time as my job in 2016. Now I've known many people in crypto, and it's a third or fourth jobs in crypto. So it's very interesting, for example, in the post FTX, when this collapse happened, it was massive fraud. It was very difficult to be in crypto. I can tell you myself, I've not many of my bank accounts, personal closed. I remember one of the big banks called me at one point. They're like, Henry, we're going to close your account because you're a PwC partner. I built the entire PwC crypto team over the years before I launched a hedge fund. And they're like, your partner in charge of crypto, we're going to shut down your account. And I was like, you're kidding me. And of course, I was able to reverse that, but it shows you how it was very, I remember when FTX happened, my father-in-law, at one point, we're having coffee. He's like, so what are you going to do now? My parents to this day never understood what I do.
But they're never, mate, you're a massive achiever. I'm sure they were never worried about you.
But I mean, it's very difficult. Being in crypto over the years, especially post FTX, was very difficult because you start even questioning yourself. You're like, okay, wow, is this industry? We believe everybody in crypto that remained post FTX, I can tell you, generally believes in it, and that's what I love about the crypto industry. As like other industries, people just do it as a job, right? Let's say you work in a bank,
but you believe in it, you love it.
But everybody, because of the history we've had last 15 years, generally what I love, it's a sense of community, right? People want it, they believe in it, and in a rational way as well. Yes, you have always people that are almost religiously in crypto. But what I love is that people genuinely care about the community. People genuinely believe about this industry. And it's remarkable, when you see how much this industry has grown over the last couple of years. I remember very vividly in the early days of crypto, 2013, 14, 15, a mention of Bitcoin in the news, we would be excited. I remember to this day when there was, I think it was Expedia. This is like 2014, 15. Added Bitcoin on their website. We were like, wow, that's it. We made it,
Yeah.
It shows you how
we're
much.
Still right at the beginning though, aren't we? We are literally right at the beginning of this whole thing.
Everybody comes to me, they're like, oh, Henry, Bitcoin is $100,000. Have I missed the boat? I've had this question asked when Bitcoin was $1,000. During COVID, it was 5,000. And I have videos of it on it, and when it was 20,000, 50, 75, we're still so early of this industry. It's actually quite remarkable. So let's go in your balls.
Let's do it. Get in there. What have we got?
Play a short game for a longer period or a long game for a shorter period. I'm a massive fan of a long term, but I think it's very important to have a direction of travel, right? And this is actually what I tell my students is unless you need to have short-term goals and long-term goals, otherwise you'll be just going, it's like driving a desert. You have no guidelines of where you're heading. And when I mention every month, I sit down by myself and I put my goals. I think how I'm being disrupted. I also have every quarter my own goals. I have my goals, my quarter, my annual goals, and I always watch it. So I think having goals on that is very important.
But so you prefer taking a longer term view versus a shorter term view, but doing microtransactions throughout?
Yeah. Correct. So I know exactly where I'm heading. For me, short term is a year. So I've always yearly targets.
Is it short term is a year?
Yeah. So I put yearly targets of what I want to achieve in that year, and I review them quarterly. But all of this has to be in a broader, like what I call a 5-year plan. I think in 5-year terms, because I find
In
this
trading,
era-
really?
Oh no, in life, more
Okay.
generally.
Okay.
Otherwise,
But this is related to trading, right?
When it comes to trading, I mean, it's let's talk about from a crypto specific perspective. I really believe you need to have this long-term perspective. So really a long-term approach. For example, when it comes to Bitcoin, if you're looking right now at buying Bitcoin just to make money the next 2-3 months, you shouldn't even get into crypto.
Yeah.
Go buy treasuries, other products there. But I think if you're looking I believe everybody in their portfolio, especially if you're young, should have a portion of their assets in Bitcoin.
What percentage?
So if you look at the sophisticated players in the market, the BlackRocks of this world, now their official view is every investor should have 2% of their portfolio. I personally believe if you're young, if you're under the age of 30, of even 40, I really personally believe it should be a bigger portion. Even if you have 25%, have a 1/3 of your book in Bitcoin or gold or assets that are basically inflation resistant. Because there's a lot of if you look at the horizon, it's not looking very pretty, right? If you look at, for example, the fiscal situation in the US, what's happening in the world, in times like these historically, you want to hold also an asset that is basically, if dollar gets devaluated or currencies get devaluated, you need to have a portion of it. What I recommend to everybody on this is whether you like Bitcoin or you hate Bitcoin, you like crypto or you hate crypto, I think you have an intellectual duty to at least try to understand
it first.
Buy $10 of
and
Bitcoin.
trial it.
Send it to somebody, try it, experiment, and then you'll make your own decision.
See, most people, when it comes to Bitcoin, they'll hoard it, they'll keep it for a long term, but because they don't think they can make much margin or money in the short term response from it. But you actually can through your hedge fund. You actually found a way of being able to provide some yield, might be quite low, on Bitcoin.
Yeah. So I mean, what we do in our hedge fund, I mean, we're what we call arbitrage fund, right? So we actually, whether Bitcoin goes up and down, we don't care. But it's really for institutional investors, not for retail investors. But we do arbitrage between different crypto assets. I mean, we generate 20 to 30% yield net with a high sharp on dollars.
High sharp. What's a sharp?
Obviously, it's a measure of, let's say, the risk that you're taking for the asset, right? So in our case, we're basically just trading on exchanges. It's relatively low risk. The risk we're taking is the exchanges go bankrupt. But that's what we call it in the jargon. You call the market neutral. That means whether the market goes up and down doesn't matter. You generate the yield comes on it.
All you need is volatility. All you need is transactions.
Liquidity, volatility.
Whether it goes up or down, regardless.
But that often for retail investors, it's not the right product. Often for everybody to start, get a bit of Bitcoin. If you don't even want to hold Bitcoin, buy the ETF. It's never been easier. But I really, if there's one message I have to people is, especially if you're young, not having Bitcoin or digital assets exposure is, I would argue, a serious risk to your future capital preservation.
That's the real right there.
Yeah, here we go. But I mean, it's not only me saying it. Now all the big asset managers, the big professionals are saying it as well. So
but play the long game, ultimately.
Definitely.
Okay.
Will crypto's volatility ever be tame, or is chaos part of the appeal? Very good question. So there's a lot of volatility in crypto, for sure. And this is normal because it's a new asset class. And I expect this to continue for the years ahead. The reason being, the asset is new. There's a lot of volatility. It's often seen still as a risk-on asset. So people don't see Bitcoin as gold at the same way they see it as a safe haven asset, but they see it as a risk-on asset. That's why there's a lot of correlation actually with Bitcoin, with tech stocks, for example. This has changed recently actually, where you're really seeing people seeing more Bitcoin as literally digital gold. But I think volatility will stay for a long time. There'll be arbitrage opportunities for the long run because it's still a very nascent asset class.
It's part of the attraction, that chaos, because that's where the money is. The inefficiencies.
I mean, that's what for hedge funds like us, that's what we make money. Of course, we trade that volatility. We trade that there's an inefficiency in the market, and I mean that's going to it'll take a couple of decades, but that will decay there. But there is still, I think, crypto will be very volatile. That's what I'm saying. If you're 65 years old, you're about to retire, don't put all your life savings in Bitcoin. But I think as part of a diversified portfolio, there's no doubt that Bitcoin plays a role.
Crystal ball, where's Bitcoin going to reach in the next 6 to 12 months?
Personally, I'll be quite surprised if Bitcoin is not $150,000 in the coming months, end of the year or Q1, Q2. I'll be very, very surprised. I'd never give investment advice, and there's all the restrictions we have here in Dubai with VARA. But personally, I think and I think there's pretty consensus now in the crypto space as well. I'll be very, very surprised if Bitcoin is not 150K in the next 12 months.
Is Trump helping Bitcoin, or is he hurting Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's a very controversial topic. So the truth be
Great,
told,
let's talk about it.
yeah, I mean, regardless of your political views of whether you're Democrat or Republican, the reality is the last administration was unjustly discriminating against the crypto industry. For sure, there'll be inquiries on these over the next couple of years, and we'll look back at it. But the SEC's action, as a lawyer, I really believe in due process. I really believe that, whether I agree or not with you, I have to hear you out. And what the SEC has done is absolutely unacceptable. It's a violation of many legal frameworks anyways. And that's why the Republicans were very smart in trying to come up with the opposite approach. So Republicans came up and saying, we're very pro-crypto. Trump is by far the most pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto president we've seen in a long time. Obviously, the regulatory regime in the US now, whether it's the SEC, CFTC, it's 180 degrees difference with before. Really, I mean, the SEC had investigations against pretty much every large crypto firm. It's all dropped. Not only that, the US created the strategic Bitcoin reserve, where the country now has a reserve of Bitcoin. It's about $20 billion Bitcoin the US has. And the idea is they want to build on that as well, not using taxpayers' money, but other means. Often it's if there's a fine, they're going to get that in Bitcoin or already confiscate assets or tariffs, and the money can come from there. But the US now has really, really woken up. There's a reason you're seeing multiple IPOs right now, crypto companies. You're seeing a lot of firms going back. Now, when it comes to Trump, in the crypto community, it's very controversial because on one side, everybody's very happy to see what the Trump has done on opening up to the crypto space. At the same time, there's Trump coin. I mean, it's pretty obvious now there was insider trading, there's market manipulation, and it's very likely people hold that eventually will hold it back and will lose a lot of value. Many people say when the strategic reserve was announced, there was insider trading. People put some positions on that unless you knew about it, you wouldn't normally put these positions on. And many would argue also the rules went the pendulum really swung another way. For example, I'll give you a very simple example. The SEC came out with guidance that says that NFTs are not securities, right? So NFTs you're trading, they're not considered securities. They're outside of the regulatory regime of the SEC. But there's a footnote that says, for the avoidance of doubt, if somebody goes on social media and promotes an NFT, that is outside of the regulatory restriction. So that left a very sour taste within the crypto community. That now there's serious potential conflicts of interest, and there's definitely market manipulation, insider trading going on, and that taints the name.
Of course.
For example,
just adds to the uncertainty.
Every time I speak with an investor, for example, they always bring me, so what is Trump doing with Trump coin and this? So it really gives a bad taste. So net, I think, is still positive, but what's been happening there is obviously may affect negatively. Time will tell. But also, let's not forget, but there's really positive developments in the US. I mean, one of them is a law that passed called the Genius Act, which basically, de facto over the next 3 years, stablecoins become equivalent of cash and cash equivalent. So stablecoins are digital assets backed one-to-one by US dollars. These are equivalent to cash and cash equivalent and can be used as collateral on any traditional finance platform. And this is really going to completely fire charge and turbocharge the US financial system on it. So I'm very bullish what's happening in the US. I think how the fallout of some of these the negative news around some of these Trump coins, Melania coins, all stuff like that, time will tell. But I think overall it's very positive.
When people think of crypto, they typically do think of the West. They don't think so much about the East.
And that's a big mistake.
Why?
So
why is that?
I call it the three solitudes of crypto. So there's the Western English-speaking world, which I would include North America and Europe. There's the other Russian-speaking world, which is the Russia and all the CIS countries. And then there's the Asian-speaking, mainly Chinese-speaking world. So these three worlds live complete in isolation. You may argue there's a small Latin American one, but that's more on the trading side. But these three ones, the English-speaking world, Russian-speaking world, Chinese,
and they don't really intersect,
except in the UAE, which is very bizarre because these two worlds operate in Russia, for example, in the ex-Soviet republics. You have amazing developers, amazing traders. China is extremely advanced. I mean, a big chunk, depending which data source you look at, is anywhere from 10 to 20% of crypto trading happens in let's call it China. Often it's via Hong Kong, Singapore, but China is extremely knowledgeable on crypto. These three worlds often don't cohabitate. It's just why when people read in English, the media, they read about these US firms or European firms, but there's so much
It's just
more
media
happening.
dictation. That's just media PR. Nothing.
And I don't blame them, right? Because the journalists, like crypto media, like any other media,
But that's
they're
political as well.
underfunded.
But there's a political agenda against that, isn't there?
Well, you know,
Could you argue that it's they want to keep the money closer to the side of the world rather than
it's very tough because you can argue that Bitcoin and digital assets will have a very material impact on the world economy. Let me give you an example. Today, if I was the governor of a central bank of a non-G7, G20 country, I would be very worried because previously, let's say I don't trust my currency. Look at Argentina, look at Turkey, and there's many examples. What people do in reality, they hoard US dollar banknotes. Literally, they have dollars under their mattress. Now, but there's a limit of how many dollars you can have. It's difficult to get. There's a black market and so on, physical risk as well. With stablecoins, you can have billions of dollars on the USB drive, right? And this is why there's what we call the risk of dollarization, where economies where people don't trust their central banks, the economy becomes dollarized. There's Lebanon, Argentina, Turkey, so many countries like these. With stablecoin, this can fast track it. So now, that's bad for smaller countries. For the US, ironically, this could be better. In a way, I always say it's a bit like when we went from the horse carriage to the car. It's not like the US is not innovating to the car, but it makes the US dollar horse faster because more and more people are using US dollars. I mean, you think of only stable coins, there's over $200 billion now of US dollar stable coins, and that those $200 billion is invested in US treasuries. So last year, for example, the biggest issuer of stable coins, Tether, was the 7th biggest buyer in the world of US debt. They're the 13th biggest holder of US debt right now in the world. They hold the Tether, one crypto company, holds more US treasuries than the United Arab Emirates, more than Germany. So these are big players. So I think there's a big dynamic there going on. When it comes to Bitcoin as well, I think people now at least have a choice. I don't believe, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin, of course. I don't believe in forcing people about Bitcoin. I like to educate people and I let people make their own decisions. I believe, though, I'm giving people a choice. You have gold. You trust your country's currency.
Yep.
You may not trust it.
Yep.
People should have the right to own Bitcoin and own stable because, we've seen this in Lebanon. People who worked all their lives, put their money in bank account, lost it all. Cyprus. People work all their lives, put their money in bank account, lost it all. Argentina, people work all their lives, they have their money in local currency, lost it all. Turkey, and the list, Nigeria. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
I lived in 2 of those countries.
Here we go. So you've seen how it works, right? And I find it very unacceptable that people don't have a choice. And it it makes these policymakers accountable. And that's why, if there's my 2 pet peeves that I have right now, personally in finance, one is where you're born determines what access to financial services you have. I think that's the biggest form of discrimination we have right now. Second is that.
How much of a socialist are you?
Well,
Is there links between crypto and socialism?
I'm not socialist at all. Actually, I'm a firm believer. I'm very socialist. I'm very liberal in my, let's say, values of what people can do in their personal lives, this and that, right? I'm actually very capitalist, I would say, even very right-wing on government. I think government should have very minimal involvement in taxes and involvements like that. In crypto, there's a big libertarian wave where people believe there should be minimum involvement in government and let the free markets decide. So that I would say is more on the right side of how things operate. But I'm not a big, I believe that people should be able to do what they do in private life, but actually on fiscal matters, business matters, I believe in capitalism for sure.
Let's do another ball.
Sure.
Let's crack on.
Will Bitcoin's energy consumption threaten its mainstream credibility? Great question. So there's a big debate over the years whether is Bitcoin environmental friendly or not, right? Today, the vast majority of electricity used to mine Bitcoin, we're talking over 70, 80%, comes from renewable sources. There's a reason that's very simple. When you're mining Bitcoin, the miners here, Bitcoin, there's really 3 price elements that come in your pricing. One is the cost of electricity, by far. Second is the cost of your machines, and third, the cost of the infrastructure, staff, and so on and so forth. But the cost of electricity is the biggest input in if you can make Bitcoin mining profitable. What is the cheapest source of electricity is always renewables, hydroelectricity, nuclear, whatever you want. This is why Bitcoin mining inherently, naturally goes to where there's the cheapest electricity, which tends to be renewables. This is why, for example, in China, where China used to have the majority of Bitcoin mining until it was banned in 2021. It happened basically during the wet season. China has amazing hydroelectricity. There is excess electricity, literally excess electricity that goes to waste. So these Bitcoin miners will go next to the source, let's say the Three Gorges Dam, and they will get this excess electricity.
But Bitcoin has a very bad PR when it comes to the environmental.
Correct. And the reason, again, there's no CEO of Bitcoin to talk about this, right? For example, and then a lot of time, if you think right now, the biggest problem for Bitcoin miners now they're competing against state nations. So Bhutan, a small country in Asia, has over $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. Why? They have a lot of hydroelectricity going to waste. They put Bitcoin mining. El Salvador, they have amazing volcanoes. So they use electricity of that, basically create and mine a Bitcoin. The biggest challenge we've had with Bitcoin is this was a narrative, people saying, oh, it's not environmental friendly. You look at the data, it's not the case. I'm amazed, by the way, people are now using it for other stuff. For example, every time you use AI, use your ChatGPT, Perplexity, using Gemini, there's tremendous amount of electricity being used.
Yeah, but they're talking about it every time someone says hello to ChatGPT and it responds. That costs a hell of a lot of money,
right?
But that is aware, and that's the same thing with Bitcoin. People are aware of it, but they're not aware of how the miners, if you like, are actually using renewable energy.
And that will always happen because the cost element, right? The miners, their goal is to be profitable and is actually be able to mine Bitcoin profitably. So they will always go to the source is cheapest, and they will go. Right now, interestingly enough, so until 2021, China was by far the biggest miner. So in the wet season, it would happen around Sichuan. In the dry season, it would go called Dongbei, which is where they would use actually coal, which was bad. That's not the non-environmental friendly part. But right now, by far, the biggest miner is in the U.S. So in the U.S., it's mainly Texas, electricity. You have a lot in actually Northeast as well. There's a lot of hydro, but the US is by far now about 60% plus of Bitcoin mining.
Let's crack on with the bulls, my friend.
Who is the bigger alpha, Wall Street or crypto's new frontier?
So there's a double entendre on the word alpha.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, where the biggest upside will come. I mean,
so who's the bigger dog and where's the bigger upside coming?
Yeah, so Wall Street is now waking up to crypto for various reasons. Wall Street or the big traditional firms, we call them TradFi, were not in crypto for a couple of reasons. One, the regulatory regime in the US was not clear. I mean, it was pretty much illegal, right? Second was the market is still quite small. If you think about it, I mean, let's use the crypto hedge fund size as an example. The total AUM of crypto hedge funds is 5 billion.
5 billion, yeah?
5 billion.
5 trillion when it comes to
the traditional hedge funds. You've done your research.
Done my research, man.
5 billion. So even if the crypto hedge fund industry grows 10x, it's still 1 in 100.
It's tiny.
So it's and this is, we're not talking asset management, which is multiple times bigger. So it's still very, very small.
I learned a lot of terms. AUM was one, Sharp was one.
There you go.
Alpha was another.
Here we go. Boom.
Man, this is just insights and learning. I love it.
That's what education is great. That's the beauty of.
So who is the bigger alpha?
I think you'll have a lot of the right now. There's definitely return-wise, the returns you get in crypto trading are, of course, way better than what you get in trading traditional markets or the typical Wall Street products. The reason being, if you go trade U.S. stocks right now, there's a million people doing it, and they've been doing it for a long time. There's big players who can actually generate that alpha, right? They have different trading strategies to do so. In crypto, there's less players. And I think there's a lot of ways to generate alpha, whether it's a volatility, the swings in the market. That's why. But I think if you're taking a longer term view, again, my advice to anybody is, whether you like Bitcoin or you hate it, it needs to play a part in your portfolio.
Alpha, just to be clear, is how it's beating the benchmark, the industry benchmark,
so,
right?
What we look at is basically the net value add you're giving. That is, you can hold what's called beta, which is you hold the stock and it's the market.
Yeah.
Alpha is basically how you're outperforming that the component to it as well.
Nice.
There's crypto beta as well. You can go buy Bitcoin and just hold it as well, which I think is very important as well.
This is super complicated,
but
I love it.
Here we go. Rank in investment priority: gold, Bitcoin, stock market, real estate.
Okay,
it's complicated.
Okay, so take a second.
Yeah,
think about it. Right, this is a big question. You got, you're an investor, you're in retail, you want to make some money. Rank in priority order: gold, Bitcoin, real estate, stock market.
There's so many variables here from if you're young, if you're old. For a 65-year-old person,
play it down the middle, right? Aggregate.
So for sure, I think it's a mix of all these, right? I think that I'm still a big believer in diversified portfolios. However, what I think the mistake that we see a lot of people make right now, is they hold some stocks. Of course, they do, and they think it's a very good thing. Real estate, a lot of people believe in. I think I see a lot of elderly people. They're like, I just hold real estate. They don't hold stocks. But I think the biggest mistake I see is people not holding gold or Bitcoin, especially Bitcoin as part of diversified portfolio. So the way I would personally have it.
Here we go.
It's tough to. But let's say young person. Let's do it for a young person. I think it's.
Are we young, by the way?
Yeah, we're young. Let's say for me, young is under the age of 40, right? Let's use. I mean, we're over the age of 40, but let's say the
Man,
under the age of 45. Let's use under the age of 45.
Appreciate
I
it.
would personally rank it if I had to. I would do if it was me.
Yeah.
Bitcoin 1, second stock market, third gold, and fourth real estate. And that's how I would rank it on. Again, everybody invests in what they're comfortable with. I obviously follow crypto markets a lot, Bitcoin markets a lot, but I really believe I genuinely believe that not holding Bitcoin or even gold in somebody's portfolio now, with the current state of the world, is a potential risk to things.
Very true.
Does increased government involvement threaten crypto's financial freedom? Increased government involvement threaten crypto's financial freedom. Where we need government involvement is on providing regulatory clarity. And I think now that's something we're having quite a bit. I think that's a positive. Where the big debate is down the line is something we call central bank digital currency. So there's Bitcoin that is purely decentralized. It's 21 billion Bitcoin. Nobody controls it. Nobody can stop Bitcoin tomorrow. Like, you cannot do that. Central banks are not stupid. I mean, first of all, if you're a central banker and you love Bitcoin, you're crazy. This is a bit like a taxi driver being excited to see Uber come in the market, right? So it definitely does not play in their advantage. Central bankers are not stupid. They said, hey, wait a second. We don't like Bitcoin, but there's a lot of features of Bitcoin that we actually like. The traceability and this and that. So central banks came up with something called central bank digital currency, which is a digital currency issued by the central bank. And you say, why are they going to do this, right? There's a couple of reasons. One of them, they can see the economic activity of a country live. Imagine if everybody's using a central bank issued digital currency. They can tell you today how much people are spending in coffee in Dubai at the second. Second, money laundering. It becomes very difficult. The good old envelope full of cash becomes impossible because everything is traceable. Third is actually what we call it makes money programmable. So let's say during COVID, every American got a $1,500 check from the government. Here, I can give you money. I can say, Luca, if you don't spend this money the next week, I'm taking it back. This is what happens in China, by the way, with the testing CBDCs. They can make the money literally expires. CBDC, central bank digital currency.
Okay.
The CBDC expires in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And you can use it in a certain area. So imagine, we can have a central bank digital currency where you have 2 weeks to spend it in JBR. That's it. So if you want to encourage the economy of a certain region or part of a country or type of business, at the policy-making level, you can do it. And then there's tax evasion, right? With people get paid in cash in many countries. You go to Europe, the guy just wants to get cash because they don't want to pay tax on it. With CBDC, that becomes impossible. So for all these policy reasons, CBDCs are great for policymakers and governments. Now, the problem is there's a complete lack of privacy, right? As a user, do you want policymakers in Europe to see all the transactions you're doing?
No.
So this is why it becomes very interesting, because in parts of the world, CBDCs now are very advanced. China is a good example, where you can argue people don't have much say on what control the government will have. On the other hand, in Europe, for example, if you look at the surveys that are done, people prefer having less convenience if it's going to encroach on their privacy, especially Germans, by the way, very interesting. So I think I can really see this debate going on. In the US, it's very unlikely we'll have CBDC. So actually, I predict that we're going to have this Cold War of CBDCs, where some parts of the world, especially US, North America, and Europe, will not have CBDCs. Other parts of the world, especially Asia, Southeast Asia, will have, and a lot of the One Belt, One Road region will have CBDCs. And you have these two worlds that are like kind of opposite philosophically as well. So is government regulation in crypto positive? Absolutely.
It's not going to limit the freedom?
I'm a big believer that, people should be able to have the right to hold Bitcoin, the right of self-custody as well. If you don't even trust custodians, you should have the right to hold your Bitcoin yourself. There's complications there. It's not for everybody, but you should be able to have the right to have that. Now, whether I agree with CBDCs is a different story. I think there's a lot of privacy concerns with CBDC. I think that that's a social contract. Are you happy to give out this information to your governments or your policymakers if in exchange you're getting something, for example, safety? with that, money laundering becomes obsolete. So are you happy to
And it
give
helps
out
the
your
PR,
plans?
and it helps the PR of the industry.
Uh,
Once you have a government, no, if Dubai, if UAE is giving a stamp on any transactions happening within the country regarding to crypto,
Yeah.
it gives a lot of confidence into the
Of
market.
course, not on CBDC, but on digital assets, 100%, absolutely. I mean, the fact that now you have countries from the US, I mean, the smaller countries, El Salvador, Bhutan, to even countries like the UAE, where Mubadala's public disclosures is that they own around $500 million of IBIT, like a Bitcoin ETF. This doesn't talk about all the other investments they have in crypto space, right? So I find it very, of course, it adds the UAE's contribution to the digital asset space has been absolutely remarkable. We're going to look back in history of digital assets, how I really believe that the UAE was very smart in capturing this opportunity and making this a national priority.
Punching way above its weight.
Oh, of course.
Let's crack on.
Every large, to give you an idea, at my offices, I'm 1 minute walk away from all my counterparties. Everybody is here. So Bitcoin, a portfolio's big part player or central player in the future of finance. Bitcoin, interesting. So will Bitcoin be a small portion of the portfolio,
is it part of
or a
the
bigger
portfolio,
part?
or is it playing the central role where you build everything around it?
A lot of people will tell you, oh no, Bitcoin will be the reserve currency we're going to use afterwards. I'm not that sure. I think what I'm convinced of is in the next 20 years, everybody will have Bitcoin as part of a diversified portfolio in the same way that you have gold today. The big question is, will it surpass gold? For example, today, Bitcoin is about 10% of the market cap of gold. Up to the last year, for example, December 31st, there was more money in Bitcoin ETFs than in gold ETFs
In the US.
in the US. So now you look at this now, and so I'm a big believer that now Bitcoin is about 10% of the market cap of gold. Bitcoin will be as big as gold, if not bigger, because there's genuine benefits of holding Bitcoin.
So hold on, central player, no longer a Bitpop player. That's the future.
Oh yeah, I don't think that people will have all their savings in Bitcoin, but I think people still have stocks, real estate, and everything. But I think it will be.
It's not an afterthought anymore, right? It's front and center of people's investment.
Same way that like in a couple of years, we're gonna look back at podcasts like this and say, "Wow, like it was the first Bitcoin crypto podcast we were doing. Wow, it was new." By the way, we've seen this over and over in history, right? Like 30, 40 years ago, nobody would even touch emerging markets. The idea of a derivative was, the ETF was invented in the 1990s in Toronto. What I mean is a lot of these instruments, there's always the start, a lot of skepticism, nobody pays attention to them, and then it explode, right?
That's what I'm saying. We're right at the very beginning.
We're still very, 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 very early on.
So I think that's the thing. People are worried they're too late.
I've heard it so many times over the years. People think they're late. I mean, we're so early, it's not even funny. We're really at the first inning of a very long game of digital assets.
Nice.
The 3 cryptos we should all have in our digital wallets. Oh.
Forget Bitcoin.
I'm over the years, I've changed a lot. I'm a big believer in Bitcoin. I hold other assets. This is one of them. I would say probably I'm not too keen, because then people come and say this. Let's say I believe that the way I look at it is everybody should have Bitcoin as a majority of the book, but you should have some of the other L1, L2s in your book, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's Solana, whether it's TON, coin of Telegram, for example. Each one of them, which one will be the winner? I think there'll be a couple of winners there. They play a big role, but
who would you back?
Honestly, difficult to answer. Very difficult to answer but I think if I look right now, Ethereum obviously has early adoption and first mover advantage.
It has its own platform as well, which helps.
Well, it's huge. I mean, it's very, very sizable, big community, and this and that. Solana is a very big community, very active there. Others are coming up, like TON, which is they can leverage the Telegram infrastructure, and I think there's a big. You literally have a couple 100 million users that can jump on it tomorrow morning.
Especially in Asia, it's massive.
Yeah, and in the Russian-speaking world as well, in particular.
Okay.
And then you have there's about, I'd say, a dozen others you're seeing in the market, which is very interesting. Like you look at them, and they each have their own features on it. Which one will win? I don't know. I think the way we're going to have is you'll have Bitcoin and you'll have a number of other layer ones. It's kind of projects that will be there. Each will have its different use cases that will be there. The other big thing as well, I'm a very, very bullish on stablecoins. I mean, there's no money to be made. It's worth $1. I think the usage of stablecoins will significantly increase over the coming years on that perspective.
So that's more about utility more than anything else.
We're seeing already, I think people underestimate how much B2B business transactions happen using stablecoins. If you're a Malaysian company today doing business with a business in Colombia, you're not using the bank SWIFT system. The delays, the payments, this and that. I mean, it's so stupid, the whole system.
And the fees as well.
Yeah, and the fees, whereas you do a stablecoin transaction immediately on the stablecoin transaction. I think remittances, we're seeing tremendous adoption on that. Remittances, you're sending money around the world. And then it's countries where there's economic stress. People now at least, thankfully, have a choice to hold stablecoins or Bitcoin as a store of value for all the hard-earned money they made on that.
Do you feel, the side question, do you feel pressure as Henri to answer these questions when your friends, your family, they're coming to you? You feel a lot of pressure because they're looking to you because you know so much and you've been involved for so long that they're literally putting their money in your hands. So, how do you feel about that?
Over the years, I've been teaching, educating from kids' books to my podcast, my YouTube channels, all my content, educating people on digital assets. I've been creating content on social media on Bitcoin digital assets daily since 2016. And, when it's bull market, everybody wants to be your friend. Everybody reaches out. Everybody wants, it's wow, great. I want exposure to it. It's very lonely in bear markets or when the markets are very down, like moments we've had post Luna, FTX and stuff. It's very, very difficult.
Doesn't it piss you off when you see these people come, they abuse you and then they drop you?
There's a lot of, people want to learn. I'm very pissed off against the bad apples we have in the industry. There's a lot of people coming just to make a money grab. Where I find it, I don't blame people who don't understand it. In the early days of crypto, like yesterday, I met a very successful, very wealthy individual, and he's like, I don't believe in Bitcoin. So I was like, great. Like, well, I'll see you on the other side. Like in the early days, I would try to convince people why. Now I'm like, you know what? Great. I'll see you later. Like I don't want to. I don't waste my time. And if you're not convinced on it, and also it's not my job to do so, right? I mean, yes, we have businesses to run. We focus on it. We focus on generating returns for our investors. But if you don't believe in it, and where I feel bad is educated people who don't believe in it, and I respect that as well. By the way, like I think my view on everybody is whether you love Bitcoin, you hate it. Whether you love crypto, you hate it. You have this moral and intellectual duty to try to understand it, like I mentioned. Buy $10 of Bitcoin, see it, transact it, see it. And then if you really don't believe in it, great, I respect you. Where I find I have a bigger issue is people that are like, had this view on Bitcoin 7-8 years ago, and by ego or, other matters, they don't want to change their view. Where I find it's quite sad is there's a lot of actually very smart people in the world. This big family offices, they're all in crypto. They all have exposure to Bitcoin. Many of them have, not all, but many of them have, increasing number have. What I find is a bit sad, a bit hypocritical as well, is a lot of banks, for example, don't allow you to touch Bitcoin. Why? Because there's no way for them to make money out of it. This is why I say when you talk about health things, fasting is great for your health, but nobody talks about it because nobody makes money out of fasting. Same thing when it comes to digital assets. It's very, for me, hypocritical that a lot of these banks would tell their clients, no, don't touch Bitcoin, and it's not good for you. It's very volatile. Now that there's an ETF, they can make money selling you the ETF. Suddenly the tone has changed. In a couple of years, when they can put funds on their platform, their message will change again. So I find it's very hypocritical what we've seen a lot of private banks on it, what we've seen a lot of banks on the topic of digital assets because they had no way to make money on it.
But the elephant in the room, which is, by the way, you can't see it, it's behind me. People will say the same thing about you. You'd be pushing the crypto agenda because you're going to make a lot of money from it. So absolutely. if you're just a regular average Luca and you're not sure, who do you know to believe?
And you're absolutely right. So there's a problem, I think, in the space where let's look at the educational side of crypto, right? Content creation. You want to learn about digital assets. When I got into Bitcoin and crypto, man, we had to go read technical white papers. I mean, this doesn't exist. Right now, you can go and easily learn about it on YouTube, for example, right? The problem is who you listen, who you trust. Unfortunately, in crypto, there's a lot of people, I call in the UAE, I call them the Palm or Marina crypto crowd. It's like these NFTs to the moon, a Lambo. Let me give you a piece of advice. Anybody comes to you and says, first of all, calls himself an expert in crypto, run away. And that's what I was saying at the beginning. Everybody tells you they're a guru in crypto, you run away. Second is anybody that shows it off. He's like, I see a lot of these.
I see 22-year-old Russians who have got their own
Ferraris, that. I mean, run away. There's a lot of shit in the space. And I think it's very sad because people often see these, oh, wow, this guy with these beautiful girls and his Ferraris and these big restaurants. If you're getting in crypto for those reasons, stay away. First, we don't want you. But however, what I find when you get rid of is crap. There's really a big segment who genuinely care about people being able to preserve their wealth, people able to preserve their worth. Like think about Argentina, the Lebanese, or all these countries where people genuinely lost their money. I hear a lot of these sad stories. I mean, Lebanon is the freshest one. So, people work all their lives,
Mate, it's
husband,
horrific.
dad,
It's
give their money
horrific.
to a wife in a bank account, lost everything. So that personally, I want to ensure doesn't happen. This is why I believe in education, right? I believe that's why, I don't make money out of books. There's a kid's book here, the kid's book on decoding crypto.
Looks a bit like you, by the way. I like
It's
it.
me, yeah. It's a Henry and Hodler, and it's
Strong eyebrows.
Yeah, I know. I had less white hair back in the day as well. But
I love
the
it.
idea was, to educate people, like your kids, for example. They're young, but their generation,
Yeah.
like Bitcoin, will be completely
Yeah.
normal.
They'll be like, "Why, Daddy? Why back in 2015 didn't you buy
Exactly.
shitloads of Bitcoin?"
I really believe it, and that we are now in a historical moment in the future of finance, in the history of money. Your kids, will look back at this era and say, "Wow, Daddy, how was it when you met people that were there when Bitcoin was created? You were there when Bitcoin became $100,000. You were there when we had ETF. How was it when banks didn't want to talk to you about Bitcoin?" The moment we're going through is such a pivotal moment in the history of finance. I find it's not only a privilege, it's an honor that I can not only see it, but I have a role in shaping it. And I find this, I really thank God every day that I have the privilege of doing this, right? In the Bitcoin space, a lot of people believe. So if you get rid of that crap of these influencers and the Ferraris, the beautiful girls and this and that, there's really people that really spend the time on the history of money, the future of money, how we've seen money evolve over the years. And once you spend time on this, it really becomes very, very important. Even my kids' book, I have a segment, I talk about the history of money. I talk about seashells and salt, and I think it's important.
You know what I find funny? Not funny, but I find really interesting. Your background is in law, right? But yet you got into this in the financial markets, and you haven't looked back since. But do you think that's helped you with a law background, sort of being able to sort of analyze and give you a sort of a non-biased, non-partisan view of certain things?
I don't know if I think many people come to Bitcoin and crypto via different angles. Actually, I mentioned I'm a lawyer. I'm a New York lawyer. I'm a Canadian lawyer. I was number one at my university in Canada. I have 2 master's degrees in law. I have a master's in Chinese law. I have a master's.
Mate, is there anything that you haven't done?
No, but I'm a nerd. I'm genuinely
it's
a nerd.
Unbelievable CV.
Yeah, but I'm a genuinely a nerd. People tell me, "What do you do on Saturday nights?" I actually read about crypto. I mean, I'm literally a loser. Like I'm not a. People tell me, "Oh, you do this, you have a TV show, you do this, you're a hedge fund manager." Well, I'm actually a pretty boring guy. I go to the gym this morning, I do this. I'm a very simple, I'm not into all this whole crazy shit. I'm a very simple guy.
No Lamborghinis?
No, definitely not. I'm not into cars,
what are you driving?
I have a family Volvo because it's for the kids. But I hate driving. I actually think we're going to look back at driving a couple of years, and say, wow, what a waste of our time. I'm a big believer in self-driving. I think in my lifetime, driving will be made illegal, because we have stupid human drivers. I'm a big believer in self-driving cars. Driving, I really believe in my lifetime, will be like riding horses. We do it on a Sunday because it's cool, it's cute, But what a waste of our time. I hate driving. I find it completely stupid because it's a waste of everybody's time. What I find, though, when it comes to law, it become very helpful is I got into Bitcoin. I used to work at a bank. So I was a lawyer. I moved to China, then I moved to Hong Kong, and I was a hedge fund lawyer, then I went to banking. And in banking, I remember I used to come to the trading floor in the morning. We used to start at 7:30. I would see like 500 bankers on the trading floor. I would say, why do we need these humans? And the way it happened is, that's how I discovered Bitcoin and crypto. I organized my first Bitcoin event in January 2014 in Hong Kong. Hong Kong was a very unique place at a time where you had a lot of entrepreneurship, you had a lot of finance, and everything came together. There's a book about us called Block Kong, the 20 people who created the crypto scene. The funny thing there, my picture is next down of Sam Bankman-Fried, because he was also in Hong Kong. And one day my kids will ask me, what are you doing next to this criminal? And I don't know, we'll answer that question when we get there. But the thing is, there's a lot of, it helps you question. And people come to crypto either from the tech side, finance side, monetary side, or legal side. I find it unacceptable, Luca, that we don't teach in law schools today about smart contract coding. In the same way,
there's a lot. Like the whole education system it's not. Forget about just crypto. There's a lot of things to be taught. I'm just conscious. How many balls do we still have left, Henry? 1 or 2?
None.
That's
left.
it.
That's it. We went through them. We went through them. Here you go.
So I've got a little special thing for you.
Here we go.
It's the blank ball, my friend.
Oh well, good.
Yeah, nothing on it.
Good.
You get to say anything that you want to say that you haven't said already, or you get to ask me anything that you want to ask. Power is yours. You didn't know this was coming, did you? Little curveball for you.
Let me ask you a question. I think. Why have you not covered crypto so far?
Because there's too many people out there who claim to be experts. The reality is, if whoever comes on the show, I want them to be informative. I want them to be studied. and I want to do my due diligence on the guest. So having anyone just come in, but man, your CV is ridiculous. I don't know of anyone living in Dubai that I have access to that has a better CV when it comes to talking about crypto, plus the personality. Because also, same time, man, I don't want to have someone who's it's not interesting. If the person's not interesting, if the content is but the person isn't, no one's going to watch. So to get the message across, you need a combination of the personality and the content, and you've got both. So I waited to get you on. We wanted you to be on part of season 3. You're now part of season 4, and scheduling issues and all that stuff. But it's worth the wait, man. And I've had too many people talk to me about crypto without really having much of a base and a foundation. And that influence is dangerous on so many people. So that's the answer.
It's a good point. And I think if there's one takeaway as well, that's why my advice to everybody is buy $10 of Bitcoin, right? I mean, next time you go into your Valentine's Day, instead of buying stupid flowers that people will throw away in 2 seconds, or like a birthday gift, you know, your girlfriend, wife, kids.
Is your wife happy?
Yeah, unfortunately, she's not making crypto, but like, anybody can go to.
I've got this image of yourself just giving your wife a bit
She'll
more Bitcoin.
like it, definitely. But I mean, it's not, there's a whole story. Like when I go weddings now, baptisms, I give crypto. And the idea was so many weddings over the years. I mean, they probably paid their wedding by now. In the early days to give Bitcoin, but I mean, because first it's a office parties, right? People doing a Christmas party or, before 8, it makes a conversation starter. I think it's a great way to give. And also it's a great way to learn. And to kids as well. My daughter now, I try to do every time there's a weekly amount, I want to convert that crypto. So let her learn, and I think that's the best way. Again, that's the problem in crypto. That's the reason I write my books. That's the reason I teach universities. People ask me still, Henry, you're so busy. Why do you still go teach in universities? It's a 30, and I'm so busy. I teach over 2 weekends. What I teach 18-hour a weekend. 9 hours on Saturday, 9 hours on Sunday. I fly to Hong Kong just for this. It's 2 weekends. Imagine I fly, teach, fly back, go teach again. And I really, because universities have not changed, I really feel bad for students. I find the education that people are getting in universities absolutely crap. And as a professor, I see it as well, right? I see the other side of it. But really, I believe it's education. I particularly, the reason I do it on social media is because, the educated person who's in the US who has the luxury of the time to learn about it will be fine. But is that single mom in Atlanta, the single mom working hard, or that father of 3 that is so hustling in Oman, in Nigeria? And I think that's the person who needs to learn about digital assets, because whether you're saving $100 or 100 million, the concept is the same, right? And I think we need to empower those people. And my angle that I've focused on is obviously universities, is via my social media creating content, and now kids, which is obviously the latest thing to do. And we'll see how it goes.
Look, it's brilliant what you're doing. I want to thank you so much. Yeah. I've learned a hell of a lot in the last hour or so. You're a great guy, mate, and I love the passion, I love the energy. You talk extremely fast. Yeah. I'm glad I got all of it, pretty much. But
I mumble, right? It's what you could do, right? It is what it is. But
you're great.
It's quite important. When people listening to this podcast, I know people often do 1.5x. Yeah. With me, doesn't work.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, it's too quick. I've tried to fix this, by the way.
I challenge anyone who's going to watch this, right, times 2x. Let's see how they get on.
I try to get a voice coach, by the way. I always try to improve, especially on TV. But I can speak and articulate slowly, but I find the energy is not the same. It's not natural, which I find is a problem.
Like public speaking is an art form, but it's such an important skill set that people need to develop.
Very important. Most important skill
100%.
in the future.
And on that note, thank you again.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for allowing us to share our passion of Bitcoin and digital assets with your followers. And keep up the good work, by the way. I know how difficult it is to create content and building a brand, and you've done a fantastic job on it. So well done.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. And for you guys, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, do what you do best, and see you soon on Luca's Inside Track.